Once we tied the knot, we took out a mortgage for an apartment. Our goal was to pay it off as soon as possible. At the same time, I was building a sizable business. A few years down the road, we finally managed to clear the mortgage, and my business was thriving. Life seemed pretty perfect. That's when we set our sights on getting a country house. To be honest, it had always been a dream of mine. Around the same time, I inherited my aunt's apartment. So we decided to sell it and use the money to buy that dream country house. We found a cozy yet solid place close to the city, ideal for a weekend getaway or even to live in full time. It was convenient for commuting to work too. The yard was spacious, but my wife was adamant about not wanting a vegetable garden or any kind of beds for growing things. "My dear, let's get professionals to spruce up the yard. A designer could make it look like a masterpiece." "I'm all in, but who's going to manage everything? Someone needs to oversee the project, and I can't take time off from work right now." "Don't worry, I'll handle it myself." We spent time watching various ads and reading reviews, and even asked for recommendations from friends. In the end, we settled on a small company specializing in landscape design. That's how James appeared. My wife Ella explained what was on her mind, and James came up with some interesting ideas. I was happy, so I went to work, and Ella stayed to do business. As soon as the work began, there was a lot of activity on the construction site. But when I returned after lunch, I found that Ella was there all alone. She would excitedly show me the progress, and honestly, I was impressed. "See how lovely it's shaping up. We're going to have a small pond right here. It'll be perfect for us. And over there, an alpine slide. We even decided to plant some rare rose varieties. We also have a red-eared turtle named Cherry, and I love the idea of letting her roam around the pond in the summer." Everything seemed fantastic, but something kept nagging at me. Why was James never around when I dropped by? One day, I made a point of coming home an hour earlier than usual, just to catch a glimpse of James working and maybe chat for a bit. But once again, when I arrived, Ella was bustling about, talking excitedly, and James was already gone. "Honey, look at the gorgeous flowers. And these paths, aren't they just beautiful?" She didn't wait for a response, and I didn't ask anything, but something felt off. So, the next day, I left work early again. I arrived around lunchtime, walked into the yard, and noticed gardening tools scattered everywhere. The place was eerily quiet. On the far side of the house, there was a small gazebo, almost like a tiny house. I heard some odd noises coming from inside, so I approached it, and when I peeked in, I froze in shock. There they were, Ella and the designer, James, in a very compromising position. Fury welled up inside me, and I let out a low growl. He must have been terrified, because he bolted through the gazebo, still half-dressed, in what I can only describe as an absolute panic. As he ran, he trampled the flower beds, crashed into bushes, and stumbled over the decorative stones. He fell, scrambled to get up, then fell again, only to finally take a dive straight into the pond. Meanwhile, Ella had thrown her clothes back on, and was now trying to calm me down, while also chasing after James, who was desperately trying to make a break for it. I wasn't planning on hitting him. He was already scared senseless. But as Ella realized I wasn't going to hurt him, she turned on me instead, launching into a tirade of accusations. "How dare you accuse me? I'm bored. I miss the excitement of being wooed. You barely pay me any attention. Are you serious?" I was floored. I never saw that coming. I worked hard, made sure we were living comfortably, bought her nice things, never disrespected her. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. But somehow, That made me the bad guy. By this time, James had gathered himself, dressed, and fled, thankfully in his car. I tried to talk things out with Ella, but she wasn't having it. Her only claim was that I didn't give her enough attention, and that was it. Suddenly, I was the villain. Our marriage unraveled from there. She quietly agreed to the divorce. In the end, the house was left to me, and the work on the yard was nearly finished. James hadn't managed to destroy everything in his frantic escape. But here's the thing. I didn't want that country house anymore. What was the point? It was supposed to be our family retreat, but it didn't turn out that way, not even close. To be honest, at that moment, I wished I had come out against James more forcefully. A guy like him deserved a lesson. But in the end, life taught Ella a lesson. I sold my dream house and eventually moved into a new apartment.